Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us in this informative session. My name is Luisa Garnica, and I am the EducationUSA advisor in Guatemala.
And hello, everyone. I am Alessandra. I'm EducationUSA advisor in Curitiba, Brazil.
And today we'll talk to you about tips to master standardized testing, and we'll focus on SAT, ACT, and GRE. So please, Alessandra, take it away.
Great. So when we're talking about applying to US, the universities, they are requiring some tests, some standardized tests. So you probably heard about some English proficiency, but today we were talking about for undergraduate level, we are thinking about SATs and ACTs. And when we are talking about graduate level, master and doctor, usually GRE, and they have lots of other tests that you can find when you are researching it. And next, we are going to see a little bit the overview, what's different, what's similar to SATs and ACTs. First of all, they are from two different organizations. So SATs, College Board, you probably heard about that when you're doing your college search, and the ACTs, student.org for ACTs. So the score, they are generally different. So when you're talking about SATs, they do have two sections, and each sections go from 200 to 800 points. And the total score is a sum up of both of the two sections, and it is up to 1,600 points in total. For the SAT, they have four sections. They are a little bit longer than the SATs, and the sections, each sections go from 1 to 36 points. And the total score is a composite or average. It's also out of 36 points. And when we're thinking about the format, they are also different. So SAT, it's more paper-based. You have the booklet and everything. And the ACT is computer-based. It is not at home. It is in a center, but it's computer-based. So it's important for you to keep in mind what's best for you. SATs is a little bit longer than the ACTs, but when we are talking about timing, it's about the same. And both tests, they have optional essay tests. If you want, usually some universities, they will request optional essays. Also, either one have panels for guessing, so you can guess, you can answer everything. So just make sure that you don't leave anything in blank. Also, it is important for international students to keep in mind that they have international students' dates. So when you go to their website, you can use the QR codes as well and just check the dates. Usually the tests are on Saturday. So next a little bit, we are talking about the structure and content. So when we're talking about content, they are similar. They do have small differences. For example, ACTs, they have a science part, a science test. And when you're talking about the SATs and ACTs math section, ACT has a section that there is no calculator permitted, so you cannot use your calculator. I think that's interesting in both tests. Both you can use the calculator, but it's a specific kind of calculator. So just go to the website, search what kind of calculator can you take in the test day. Also, both tests, they have a break, a 10 minutes break. I think the ACT has a break just after the reading part, and the ACT has a break just after the math part. So it's nice for you to take some snacks, some drinks for the test, so you can kind of relax a little bit and kind of put your head again in the test. Time management is very important when we are thinking about the test. So you can always check the time per question. Some questions, they have some sections, they have you will have 1 minute per question. In other sections, you have less than that. So make sure that you are prepared for that. And just some tips for you to study in the next slide. It is very interesting that you practice concepts and techniques. So what we mean about the concept is that the subject or the content of the test, it is not a secret. So just go to the website and search what each section says. For example, if you want to know what they are requesting in the math part of the test, the ECT will tell you, okay, 10 to 15% of this test is algebra, 10 to 15 is geometry. So you can know a little bit where you need to focus and what kind of content you will find in the test. Also, when you are studying, like just to time sprints, like just try to time sections. If you go there and you, for the reading part, just try to like have 60 minutes, 65 minutes for this reading part, and just make sure that you are filling all the time and getting all the answers. And if you miss something, just go back and learn from your mistakes. What is happening? When you are checking the times and you break down the time per question, you understand that you can check what kind of questions are you spending the longest. So you go back and understand why is that happening, right? So you can like administer your time better. It is nice for you to have like a full length exam. So just try to do that, like have a 3 hours exam and practice that. And always create a test-like environment, like tell your mom that you are not able to wash the dishes right now and you need to concentrate. So that's kind of cool. So you can have all this kind of experience for the test. So in the next, we have some strategies during the test. So as of course you have time management to practice and you have to apply this time management. So easy and hard questions, they are all worth it 1 point. So make sure that your strategy is to answer what's easier for you, right? Go for the easy questions first and leave the harder ones later. And make sure that you will answer everything, because there's no wrong answer penalty. So you can just guess, right? Also, you don't need to do the questions in order. So if you go to the reading comprehension part, you can just choose what's comfortable for you. Just start with the easy ones and then you go to the hard ones. But something that I think it's important to remember, at least for Brazilians, is that when we take one of our tests, usually we have 3 hours to go everywhere. Here we have sections. So if your reading comprehension test is like 35 minutes, you only have 35 minutes for this section. You cannot advance if you finish early. So you need to wait for everything. Also, one very nice hint is just go through the entire section, flip a little bit, read everything in less than 1 minute, and just understand what's your strategy. Next, we are going to check, I think that's the most asked questions. Which test should I take? The students are asking that all the time. So how did you like the SAT section? Think about that. Are you good with sciences? The SAT science section, right? Are you good with science? If you are not that good with science, maybe you should rethink that. I think something that's very nice is just take both practice tests. Try a little bit of the ACT, try a little bit of the SATs, and think what's best for you. And do you have a test center near you? I think this is the biggest for us, at least in my city. And that's a very good example because I'm in a big city in the south of Brazil, but we don't have an ECT test center in my city. So the students that want to take the SAT test, they need to travel. So maybe that's not the best option. So you need to make sure that the ACT will actually be different in your application, or otherwise you can just take the SAT that's near you. So just make sure that you have all the information. Yeah. Next, we are going to check what, let's see, I don't remember. Okay, of course. We are checking the COVID-19 change. What happened? What changed? So we have many universities that are becoming test optional and test blind. So I think that website, the QR code website, is very cool for you to check the information. So the National Center for Fair and Open Test, just go there and you'll find a list of all the universities that become test optional. But it's also cool to understand, code to remember, and it's important to search that some universities, they are test optional, but they may still require SATs or ACTs for scholarships, right? And also, if you were athlete, you can go for the NCAA and check if they are still requiring the ACTs, because they are still requiring ACTs or SATs or ACTs for athletic scholarships. But I know there's something that they are not requiring for application at this point for this cycle for 2022. So just check this information. Also, some states or schools, they are still requiring the tests. And I think the biggest example, I think it's Florida. They continue to require the tests for admission in the state university systems, that they have it is a state obligation, right? So next, I think we are just understanding a little bit for what are the three kind of vocabularies or the kind of tests that you will find in universities. So when the universities are saying that they are test optional, it means that they are not requiring any test for the admission. You can send it, but they are not requiring. If they are test flexible, it means that they do require the test, but you can choose to send another score in place of the SATs or ACTs. And when we are thinking about test blind, that it doesn't matter if you send, they will not review your scores. So, and there's a growing number of institutions that are adopting this type of test, a test blind kind of thing. So next. So should I take the test? If the universities are becoming test optional or test blind, should I take it? So I think the first thing that we need to tell you is just research your goals, understand what the universities are asking. So are they test optional, test blind, test flexible? Understand the range scores. So what are they requesting it? So what's your target score? And when you are practicing your test and you are self-scoring yourself. So when you are doing that, just make sure that you are reaching what the university is asking. So you understand that, okay, that will make difference in my application. Just try to understand that. Also, how much money are you willing to invest? Because it is not a very cheap test, so you need to pay for that. You will need to pay for preparation, and sometimes you need to pay to travel if you want to take the SAT in my city, for example. So just make a list and think about all the possibilities. In this QR code, you will find a list of all universities that become optional or test blinds. And also just a little bit of when the universities are saying that they are test optional, they are truly optional. You don't need to send it. And they will review your application always with all your other pieces of application, your essay, your extracurriculars and everything. And if you do send your test, it will be one more piece of your application. And here is just like very quickly resources that you can check for when you are preparing yourself. They have free resources and they also have paid resources, and just feel what's best for you and how you can use the resources. And I think that's Maria Luisa will take from here.
Yes, thank you, Alessandra. That was really handy. I know I learned some things on the GRE, on the SAT, but now we'll move on to the GRE. So the GRE is a computer-based exam that you can consider if you're looking at graduate programs in the US. Like Alessandra mentioned in the beginning, there are other types of standardized testing for the graduate level, but today we'll focus on the GRE. And one of the things we need to keep in mind is that the GRE, the idea behind it is that it'll evaluate and see those skills and abilities that you should have to succeed at a graduate program in the US. So that's the idea behind taking this test and people requiring this test. You can take it at a center, physically going to a center, or you can take the at-home version now available. There are different requirements in each of these categories of options for taking the test that you should keep in mind. And I'll share some resources later on to check these. And then there are the GRE subject tests that allow you to show your skills in specific fields, such as chemistry, mathematics, physics, and psychology. These are not always required, so you should make sure that you check with the program that you're looking to apply to see if they need or require these subject tests. All right. This is a general idea of the ways that you can take it, right? You can take it at home or you can take it in center. Some general details of the GRE. The test takes about 3 hours and 45 minutes. And the recommendation for when to take the test will depend on what are your deadlines. So keep in mind that the scores will be reported to the institutions that you're applying to between 10 to 15 days after taking the test. So you should plan accordingly depending on your deadlines. How many times can you take the test? You can take it at up to 5 times in a year, and you can take it once every 21 days. So if you didn't do as well as you expected, you can take it again. But keep in mind this limit and keep in mind your deadlines. In the GRE, just as the SAT and ACT, you can guess. If you don't know the answer, there is no penalty for guessing an answer. So aim at answering every question to maximize your score. Now we'll briefly look at the GRE test structure. I highly encourage you to either copy this link or scan the QR code so you can read more in-depth content and details about the structure, because it is really important for us to feel confident in the structure of the test, in the platform as well, so that we don't find any surprises or are, shocked with something that we didn't expect. The GRE test structure, in this lapse of 3 hours and 45 minutes, you will have different sections that will measure different elements. The first section, which always comes first, is the analytical writing. This section has 2 tasks. One is analyze an issue, and the other task is analyze an argument, and you will have 30 minutes per task. Then, this is not necessarily the order that it'll show up, but then you can find a section that is called verbal reasoning. This is 2 sections. It has 20 questions per section, also 30 minutes per section. And then we'll have the quantitative reasoning part, which also has 2 sections, and with 20 minutes per section, with 35 minutes per section. Then comes this strange element of the unscored section, which is a section that won't count towards your score, but that may come in any moment after the analytical writing part. And you have to answer it because it's part of the order of your exam. And you should become familiar with this because you don't want to be surprised, like we were mentioning before. And then there can be an optional part that's called the research section. Also does not count towards your score and normally comes towards the end. All right, so you may find either an unscored or a research section that won't count towards your score, but that you should respond anyway. You will have a 10-minute break throughout this whole test that will come after the 3rd section that you do. So this is why it is very important for you to become familiar with the platform and become familiar with the test so that you can know how you will react, how you do react to certain sections, and optimize your time in response, okay? So now let's look really briefly at the skills that each of these sections measure. This is really important to become familiar with because that is going to give you your audience, so to speak. You'll know what they're looking for and you'll know what skills to get out of you in each section. You'll know how to optimize your efforts. I want to remind us what we saw in the first slide of the GRE, which is the GRE is trying to get out of you those skills and that type of thinking that you will use and should be using at a graduate program in the US. Okay, so in the analytical writing part of your GRE test, this is one section for 2 tasks, right? Analyzing an argument and analyzing an issue. You should exemplify skills such as critical thinking, analytical writing, the ability to articulate and support complex ideas, and being able also to examine claims and evidence. So this is going to be really important for your GRE, but also remember, if you're looking at a graduate program in the US, these are things that are essential for your success at a graduate program in the US. Now, when looking at the verbal reasoning, remember, there's 2 sections, 20 questions each. Here, we'll look at analyzing and drawing conclusions from these scores and being able to reason from incomplete data. So being able to infer, right? Going beyond what is right there and what may be missing. And also understanding the multiple levels of meaning, you know, figurative, what is the author's intent? And being able to go beyond what is there. And again, these are all skills that are helpful for our GRE performance, but are also going to be able for later on in our academic graduate life. And then quantitative reasoning, right? Again, 2 sections, 20 questions each. This is math. So our ability to understand, interpret, and analyze quantitative information, applying basic concepts of arithmetic, algebra, geometry, and data analysis, and solving problems using mathematical models. In this sense, if you're looking at, you know, humanities, maybe you are not as confident in math, but that's okay. These are all basic concepts that we all had to learn at some point, basically. Maybe you just need to freshen up on these concepts. And we'll share in a moment different recommendations and resources for you to prepare. So again, in the sense of the skills, look at the macro concept, which is you are presenting your skills and your way of thinking for performing well at the graduate level in the US, all right? So looking at the scores, how do you make sense of them? Again, another QR code, if we didn't share enough already. You can go to this link and read up on how to make sense of your scores, how do institutions make sense of your scores, what to expect in kind of each of these scores, how to interpret them. The analytical writing part is scored from 1 to 6. And then the verbal and quantitative part is scored from 140 to 170. And I write in quotes the competitive score because it's really not, there's not a standard. It's not like you pass or you fail. It's more about checking with your program, checking those requirements, kind of analyzing statistics on how people in your field do in the GRE, so you know what you should be aiming at. There's not a pass or fail, but there is a standard deviation kind of thing. There is this comparison, which is this percentiles concept. Your score will be compared to other people who took the tests. And this will be explained in your results when you receive them. And you can read up more in detail then. But you have to understand there will be a curve, and you'll see how you did towards the 100% of people who took the test, how you did. If you're in the 99th percentile, you know, or how if you did really poorly, you're under the 50th percentile. So we need to aim at doing our best effort and understand that it's not a pass or fail kind of score. It's more of a comparison. It can be quite subjective. So you should check with your program and look at those requirements. And prepping for the GRE, there's some resources that are free and some that are paid. ETS, which is the organism that does the GRE, has a lot of resources. Some are free, some are paid. And here's the link to that. And then there's another platform that has some resources that is called Magoosh, and then you can take some courses there and explore what are some of the available resources for you. And then also, I want to emphasize the importance of becoming familiar with the platform. This is, I think, the best way to not be frozen and not feel intimidated, which is, I know this from, as the back of my hand. And I think that is one good spot to start. Create your username at the platform. Know when and how to find the dates. If you want to take it in a test center, if you want to take it in at your home, if you have the requirements. And therefore, on the test day, it'll vary depending on what kind of test you decide to take. If it's in the test center, you'll have to, for example, follow restrictions. Maybe for sure wear a mask depending on where you're located. Bring your ID. You won't be able to bring in your cell phone or any other digital gadget with you, so you'll have to plan leaving them at home or follow instructions from the people that will guide you at the center. And if you're going to take it at home, you'll need to install certain software on your computer. Make sure that you have good connection to internet and follow certain privacy and honor code guidelines in this regard. So I invite you to go to this link and review this content so that you feel ready and prepared for taking your GRE test. Also, there's just this proposed checklist for the GRE. The first item, and I think is the most important, is prep. So at least 1 to 6 months prior to taking your test, get yourself familiar with the platform and how you react to the platform and the test. So it's not only, okay, so there's these sections, I know them, it's fine, I'm good at writing, I'm good at verbal reasoning, I'm good in math. Not really. You should know how you react towards the test, towards certain sections, so that you develop your technique to take it. And, it becomes a breeze to take, hopefully. And take lots of practice exams and simulate those time constraints, the setting for the test. Remember, please, to use your full legal name when registering for any exam. Even if it's, the SAT, ACT, or any other exam, when it comes to legal names, please add all the names that you may have. And then consider that you can retake the test. Don't be too upset if you don't do as well as you expected. You can take it again, and you will have learned from this first experience. And then consume academic English. And this is, I think, an advice that goes to undergraduate students and graduate students equal, because if we want to improve our written English, we should read a lot. And what better way to become familiar and improve than reading academic English? And there's a lot of resources that are free. I know one good one is Google Scholar, even, that you can look up for articles in your field or in a field that you want to learn about. And that can be a fun, goal for your week or for your daily professional and academic development. And then real quickly, the night before, make sure that you sleep. Don't stay up studying. That is not going to do you any good. And on the test day, please eat breakfast, because you're going to be there for a long time. And who knows if you'll be able to eat or really take a break for eating. So make sure that you get your fuel. Your brain will need it. And remember that you'll be okay. So don't stress over this. And remember that you can always do better. So it's not the end of the world if you didn't do as well as you expected. You can always retake and learn from the past. So I don't know, Alessandra, is there anything you wanted to add as a wrap up?
Yeah, I think the GRE checklist was actually good for SATs and ACTs as well. Just follow Maria Luisa's checklist, and I think you to find in any test you would take.
Awesome. And remember that there are some handouts that you can use for the GRE in the ETS site. Remember to optimize and use all of these QR codes Alessandra and I collected for you. And we wish you the best of luck and take good care.